The blood was still warm when police found her body. Stabbed 17 times. Her killer? The man she'd hired just 3 days earlier to fix her kitchen sink. His background check showed nothing. Absolutely nothing. But what it didn't show was that he'd been using a dead man's identity for 12 years. Right now, as you're watching this video, someone you know is living a lie so twisted, so unimaginably dark, that if you discovered it, you'd never sleep peacefully again. Your babysitter, your landlord, your co-worker who brings donuts every Friday. One of them is hiding something that would make your blood freeze. Tonight, I'm going to show you 7 cases where a simple background check revealed secrets so horrifying they changed everything. And I guarantee you after watching this, you'll never trust anyone the same way again. Before we dive into these nightmare scenarios, I want to thank my incredible viewers who come back week after week to uncover the darkness hiding in plain sight. If you're new here and you want to learn the terrifying truths that others are desperate to keep buried, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what I am about to reveal will keep you awake tonight, and that is exactly what could save your life. Let me tell you about Veronica Martinez, a 31-year-old graphic designer living in Austin, Texas. Single mother to twin boys aged 7. She lived in one of those picture-perfect suburban neighborhoods where everyone knew everyone, where kids rode bikes until sunset, where you never locked your doors. Her next-door neighbor was Kingston Hayes, 52 years old, recently divorced, worked from home doing something with computers. He was the neighbor every parent dreams of. He'd help carry groceries, shovel snow in winter, even offered to babysit when Veronica had to work late. The kids loved him. He made them feel safe. 6 months after he moved in, Veronica's mother came to visit. Being a former police officer, she had this nagging feeling about Kingston. Something in his eyes, something too friendly, too helpful. She convinced Veronica to run a background check just to be safe. The report came back clean. No criminal record. No red flags. Nothing. But Veronica's mother wasn't satisfied. She dug deeper. She used her old police contacts. She called courthouses in neighboring states. She spent 3 sleepless nights searching through databases most people don't even know exist. And that's when she found it. Kingston Hayes had legally changed his name twice. His birth name was Kingston Morris, then Kingston Adams, and under that original name, he'd been acquitted of murdering 4 children. Acquitted on a technicality. The evidence was overwhelming. DNA fingerprints, witness testimony. But his lawyer got it all thrown out because of one illegal search. The children were all between 6 and 8 years old. All had been neighbors he'd befriended. All had parents who trusted him completely. When Veronica confronted him about the name changes, Kingston didn't deny it. He just smiled. And do you know what he said? Those parents should have been more careful about who they let their children trust. That night, police searched Kingston's house. In his basement, they found detailed files on every child in the neighborhood. Photos taken through windows, school schedules, daily routines, and in his computer, videos. Hours and hours of videos of him watching Veronica's twin boys through their bedroom window. Kingston Hayes had been planning for months, studying them, learning their habits, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. If Veronica's mother hadn't trusted her instincts, if she hadn't dug deeper than that initial clean background check, those boys would have disappeared, just like the 4 children before them. Here's what that background check missed, and why it's happening right now to someone just like you. Legal name changes don't always show up in standard reports. Different states don't communicate with each other. Sealed records stay sealed. And acquittals? They disappear completely. There are over 100,000 registered sex offenders who successfully changed their names and moved to new communities. Clean slates, fresh starts, new neighbors to befriend. Your perfect neighbor might be one of them. Anastasia Cole was 28, successful marketing executive in Portland, Oregon. Like millions of women, she was looking for love on dating apps. She was smart about it. She met men in public places, told friends where she was going, never gave out her address too quickly. Then she matched with Blake Thornton. His profile was perfect. Handsome, but not suspiciously so. Good job in finance. Loved hiking and cooking. His photos showed him with friends, at social events, living a normal, healthy life. They talked for weeks before meeting. He was patient, never pushy. He listened when she talked about her job stress. He remembered details about her family. He seemed genuine. Their first date was coffee at 2 p.m. on a Saturday. Safe, public. He was even better in person, funny, charming, asked about her interests. No red flags, not one. They dated for 4 months. He met her friends. She met his co-workers. Everything felt natural, organic. She was falling for him hard. Then Blake proposed. Not a big production, just a quiet dinner at home, a simple ring, a heartfelt speech about wanting to spend his life with her. Anastasia said yes. As they planned their small wedding, Anastasia's best friend, Camille, had a suggestion. I know it sounds paranoid, but my sister's a private investigator. She could run a deep background check on Blake, just for peace of mind. People lie on dating apps all the time. Anastasia laughed it off. I know Blake. I've met his friends, his co-workers. I've been to his apartment. He's not hiding anything. But Camille persisted. What if he is? What if there's just one thing he hasn't told you? Wouldn't you want to know before you marry him? Finally, just to put Camille's mind at rest, Anastasia agreed. They hired the private investigator. It would take a week. 3 days into the investigation, Camille called Anastasia at work. Her voice was shaking. We need to meet, right now. Don't go home. Don't call Blake. Just meet me at that coffee shop downtown. Anastasia's hands were trembling as Camille opened the investigation file. The first page was a police report from Phoenix, Arizona. A missing person report. Isabella Martinez, 26 years old. Marketing coordinator. She disappeared 18 months ago. The last person seen with her, her fiancé, Blake Thornton. Page 2. Another missing person report. Denver, Colorado. Emma Rodriguez, 29, graphic designer. Disappeared 2 years ago. Last seen with her boyfriend, Blake Thornton. Page 3. Missing person, Salt Lake City. Page 4. Missing person, Seattle. Page 5. Missing person, San Francisco. 5 women. 5 cities. 5 missing persons cases. All between ages 25 and 30. All professionals. All had been dating Blake Thornton when they vanished without a trace. The investigator had uncovered Blake's pattern. He'd move to a new city, create dating profiles, find successful women with no close family nearby. He'd date them for months, gain their trust, propose marriage, and then they'd disappear. Anastasia realized she fit the profile perfectly. No family in Portland. Busy career that kept her isolated. Few close friends. She was exactly the type of woman Blake targeted. The investigator explained Blake's method. He never killed them immediately. First, he'd isolate them from friends. He'd suggest they were too dependent on others, that their love was stronger when it was just the two of them. He'd move them to new apartments, away from familiar places. He'd deconvince them to quit their jobs. I make enough money for both of us. Why don't you focus on our relationship? He'd handle their finances, their social media, their contact with the outside world. And when they were completely dependent on him, when they had nowhere to run, when no one would notice if they disappeared, that's when he'd make them vanish forever. Anastasia looked at her engagement ring. Blake had been suggesting she work from home more often. He'd been critical of Camille, saying she was jealous of their relationship. He'd offered to help her find a new apartment, somewhere quieter, more private. The trap was already closing around her. That night, instead of going home, Anastasia went straight to the police. Blake's apartment was searched the next morning. In his closet, they found jewelry from all 5 missing women. In his computer, they found detailed plans for Anastasia's disappearance. And in his basement, they found Isabella. She was alive, barely, chained to a wall, malnourished, broken. She'd been his prisoner for 18 months. The other 4 women, their bodies were buried in a storage unit he rented under fake names. When police arrested Blake, he wasn't angry or panicked. He was disappointed. He looked at Anastasia and said, "We could have been so happy together. I was going to keep you longer than the others." Ravenna Industries was one of those mid-sized tech companies where everyone felt like family. 200 employees, casual dress code, monthly happy hours. The kind of place where people stayed for decades. Their head of human resources was Xander Blackwood, 43 years old, been with the company for 8 years. He was the person everyone trusted with their deepest secrets: salary negotiations, personal problems, family issues. If you needed time off for rehab or help with a domestic violence situation or counseling for depression, Xander was your guy. He remembered everyone's birthdays. He organized the office charity drives. When employees were struggling financially, he'd quietly help them find resources. He was the heart of that company. Then Monica Patterson stopped showing up for work. Monica was 34, worked in accounting, lived alone with her 2 cats. She was quiet, kept to herself, but reliable. She'd never missed a day without calling. After 3 days of no shows, Xander called the police to do a wellness check. They found Monica's apartment empty. No signs of struggle. No note. Her car was gone. Her bank account had been cleaned out. The police concluded she'd left voluntarily. Maybe financial problems, maybe personal issues. People disappear sometimes. Case closed. 6 months later, it happened again. Trevor Walsh, 29, software developer, lived alone, few friends, introverted personality. Same story, stopped showing up, apartment empty, bank account drained. Then Iris Chun, 31, graphic designer. Then Marcus Rivers, 28, data analyst. Then Helena Kozlov, 33, project manager. 5 employees over 2 years. All single, all lived alone, all had confided personal problems to Xander at some point. The police still weren't connecting the dots, but the CEO, Patricia Hawkins, was getting worried. Patricia hired a private security firm to investigate quietly. She didn't want to panic the remaining employees or damage company morale over what might be coincidences. The investigators started with Xander's background. His resume was perfect. Stellar references. Clean criminal record. But they dug deeper than any employer ever had. They discovered that Xander Blackwood had legally changed his name from Xander Mitchell 3 years before joining Ravenna Industries. Under his birth name, he'd worked at 4 other companies. Each previous job had ended the same way. Employees would disappear, 1 or 2 at first, then more. Always loners, always people with personal problems, always people who'd confided in Xander. The investigators realized what they were dealing with. Xander wasn't just stealing money from these people. He was selecting victims based on their vulnerability, their isolation, their lack of close relationships. He'd gained their trust through his HR position. He'd learned their deepest secrets, their financial problems, their family situations. He'd offer to help with personal loans, job placement assistance, counseling resources. But the help came with strings. He'd suggest they move to cheaper apartments, ones he helped them find. He'd recommend banks for their financial problems, banks where he had contacts. He'd introduce them to therapists who were actually part of his network. Slowly, systematically, he'd take control of every aspect of their lives. Their housing, their finances, their health care, their social connections. They'd become completely dependent on him. And when they outlived their usefulness, when they started asking too many questions or tried to become independent again, they'd disappear. Armed with this evidence, the investigators set up surveillance on Xander. They followed him to a storage facility outside the city, where he kept a unit under yet another fake name. Inside that unit, they found the personal belongings of not just the 5 missing Ravenna employees, but artifacts from his previous jobs, 17 people total. Driver's licenses, jewelry, phones, laptops. They also found 3 people who were still alive: Trevor, Monica, and Helena. They were being held in a modified shipping container on property Xander owned under a shell company. These 3 had been his prisoners for months. He'd convinced them that their families had disowned them, that the outside world had forgotten them, that he was the only person who cared about their survival. When police rescued them, Helena actually tried to protect Xander. She begged officers not to arrest him, insisting he'd saved her from homelessness and suicide. During his interrogation, Xander showed no remorse. He described his victims as damaged goods that society had abandoned. He believed he was providing them with purpose, with structure, with someone who cared about them. He told investigators, "I gave them meaning. Without me, they were just wasting space, consuming resources. I made their lives matter." Police discovered Xander had been perfecting this system for over 15 years. He'd target mid-sized companies with high employee turnover and minimal background check protocols. He'd build trust, select victims, and disappear them so efficiently that most cases were never even investigated as crimes. The FBI estimates there could be dozens more victims from his previous positions. People who disappeared so completely that their cases went cold before anyone realized there was a pattern. Willowbrook Elementary was the kind of school every parent dreams of sending their children to. Small classes, dedicated teachers, a tight-knit community where everyone knew everyone else's kids. The principal was Dr. Octavius Sterling, 51 years old, doctorate in education, 15 years of experience. Parents loved him. He remembered every child's name, attended their soccer games and dance recitals, organized fundraisers that always exceeded their goals. Dr. Sterling had instituted innovative programs that made Willowbrook Elementary a model for other schools. Student mentorship programs, after-school tutoring, weekend enrichment activities. He was particularly dedicated to helping struggling students, kids from broken homes, kids with learning disabilities, kids who needed extra attention. His most praised initiative was the Success Squad, a program where he personally mentored at-risk students. These children would spend extra time with Dr. Sterling after school, getting academic help and emotional support. Parents of Success Squad children couldn't say enough good things about Dr. Sterling. Their kids' grades improved dramatically. Their self-esteem soared. They went from being problem students to star students, but then Lydia Chung, mother of 8-year-old Tyler, noticed something odd. Tyler had been in the Success Squad for 6 months, and while his grades were better, his behavior at home had changed. Tyler had become secretive. He'd have unexplained mood swings. He'd flinch when adults touched him casually, a hand on the shoulder, a hug goodbye. He'd stopped wanting to invite friends over or go to birthday parties. When Lydia asked Tyler about it, he'd just say that Dr. Sterling taught him that some things were special secrets that only Success Squad kids could understand. Lydia started paying more attention to the other Success Squad children. At school pickup, she noticed they all seemed to exhibit similar behaviors, withdrawn, secretive, uncomfortable with physical contact from their own parents. She decided to run a background check on Dr. Sterling, not because she suspected anything terrible, but because her maternal instincts were screaming that something was wrong. The standard background check came back perfect. Clean criminal record, excellent employment history, glowing references from previous positions. But Lydia wasn't satisfied. She hired a private investigator to dig deeper into Dr. Sterling's past, particularly his previous positions. What they found was chilling. Dr. Sterling had worked at 6 different schools over his career. At each school, he'd implemented similar mentorship programs for at-risk children. And at each school, there had been quiet resignations, transfers, and unexplained behavioral problems among certain students. But no formal complaints, no investigations, no red flags that would show up in a standard background check. The investigator discovered that Dr. Sterling was masterful at selecting victims and manipulating situations. He chose children from troubled homes, kids whose parents were divorced, financially struggling, or dealing with addiction. Kids whose behavioral changes might be attributed to their home situations. When concerns were raised, Dr. Sterling would handle them personally. He'd meet with parents, express concern about the child's home environment, and suggest that the behavioral changes were actually signs of healing and growth. He'd convince parents that their children's withdrawal was a natural response to finally having a stable adult figure in their lives. He'd suggest that the children needed time to adjust to having someone who truly cared about their success. When situations became too difficult to manage, Dr. Sterling would simply move to a new district. His reputation was so stellar that schools competed to hire him. Each new position was a promotion, a step up in salary and prestige. The investigator interviewed former students from Dr. Sterling's previous schools, now adults, who could speak freely about their experiences. What they revealed was a systematic pattern of grooming and abuse that had been hidden for over a decade. Dr. Sterling would identify vulnerable children, gain their trust through his mentorship program, and then gradually normalize inappropriate behavior. He'd start with special privileges, staying after school alone with him, getting treats other kids didn't get, being told they were chosen for their potential. And then came the boundary violations, inappropriate touching disguised as affection, Private conversations about mature topics, special secrets they couldn't share with anyone. He was an expert at making children feel responsible for protecting him. He'd tell them that if anyone found out about their special relationship, he'd lose his job and wouldn't be able to help other kids who needed him. Armed with testimony from former victims and evidence of the pattern, Lydia went to the police. They set up a careful investigation that involved child psychologists and specially trained officers. When they interviewed current Success Squad members with proper protocols and support, the truth came flooding out. 12 children at Willowbrook Elementary had been victimized by Dr. Sterling. Dr. Sterling was arrested at school on a Tuesday morning. As he was led away in handcuffs, he maintained his innocence, insisting that he dedicated his life to helping children and that this was all a misunderstanding. The FBI investigation that followed revealed that Dr. Sterling had abused over 200 children across 6 school districts over 15 years. His victims ranged in age from 6 to 12 years old. The case exposed massive failures in the background check system for education professionals. Dr. Sterling had been able to move between districts without any red flags. Because complaints had been handled internally, victims had been too young to speak out effectively, and his professional reputation had been carefully cultivated. The Willowbrook case led to mandatory federal background check protocols for education professionals. But investigators estimate there are hundreds of other predators currently working in schools, protected by the same system failures that allowed Dr. Sterling to operate for so long. I've just shared with you 4 cases that should terrify you, not because they're rare or unusual, but because they're happening right now all around you, every single day. Kingston Hayes, the neighbor who was planning to murder children. Blake Thornton, the dating app serial killer. Xander Blackwood, the HR predator who disappeared employees. Dr. Octavius Sterling, the principal who abused hundreds of children. These aren't movie monsters or fictional villains. These are real people who passed real background checks and lived real lives in real communities just like yours. Right now, think about the people in your life. Your landlord who has keys to your apartment. Your child's teacher who stays after school with them. Your coworker who knows your schedule and where you live. Your neighbor who's always so helpful and friendly. One of them might be living a lie so monstrous that if you discovered it, it would change everything you believe about human nature. The FBI estimates that 1 in every 40 adults in America is hiding a criminal past that would shock the people who know them. That's over 8 million people walking among us with secrets that could destroy lives. I want you to do something right now. Pick the 3 people you trust most in your life. The ones you'd never question, never doubt, never suspect of anything darker than speeding tickets. Now imagine I told you that one of those 3 people has a secret so twisted, so unthinkably evil, that learning about it would haunt you for the rest of your life. You'd probably laugh. You'd say I was being paranoid, that you know these people, that you'd sense if something was wrong. That's exactly what Veronica thought about Kingston. What Anastasia thought about Blake. What the employees at Ravenna Industries thought about Xander. What the parents at Willowbrook Elementary thought about Dr. Sterling. The most dangerous predators aren't the obvious ones. They're not the creepy strangers lurking in dark alleys. They're the charming neighbors, the perfect boyfriends, the trusted employees, the beloved community leaders. If this video has opened your eyes to the darkness hiding in plain sight, I need you to do 3 things. First, smash that like button to help this video reach people who need to see it. Second, subscribe and hit the notification bell, because I'm going to keep exposing the truths that others don't want you to know. And third, most importantly, share this video with someone you care about. Send it to your sister, your best friend, your adult children, because the information I've shared tonight could save their life. Remember, the person sitting next to you right now, the person you trust completely, the person you'd never suspect. What if you're wrong about them? What if everything you think you know is a lie?